This episode is supported by Trustonomy, an original podcast from OneTrust. Every good relationship you have, personal or business, it involves trust. But we all know that trust doesn't just happen, right? We've all lost trust in a friend or a brand or a product. Trustonomy is a new podcast that looks at true stories from the past to understand how trust works and what makes it stronger and how to rebuild it when it's broken. Now, you know I'm a sucker for a good podcast that weaves historical stories and relates it to what's happening today. So I thoroughly enjoyed this Trustonomy episode and recommend that you check that out as well. Search for Trustonomy in your podcast player. We'll also include a link in the show notes. Many thanks to the OneTrust team for their support.
Welcome to the Rocketship podcast. I'm Matt Goldman.
I'm Michael Sacca.
And I'm Joelle Steiniger. Today we talked with Peter Wilkins, Managing Director at Hyde Park Angels. What'd you guys think of this one?
It's always interesting to hear kind of the other side of the story and get the perspective of what he's looking for and what he sees as opportunities in the market. They're based in the Midwest, so he has a slightly different perspective sometimes on what will make a business successful. So it was great to hear.
Yeah, he talked a lot about what they're looking for in companies before they invest, specifically in how they create value, gain traction, and how that is impacted with the market that they're going after. There's certain things that they really need to see from a founder in the early days, and it's good to learn about that so you can work on that from the start. So let's get into it.
We'd like to take a moment to thank our sponsors. Hover makes purchasing and managing your domain simple and easy. This week, I talked to George Diab of Working On about why he uses Hover.
Oh, man. Yeah, I've been using it for a long time, probably 2012, I think. I love it. The prices are great. The interface is awesome. And I still have a few domains out in some other places, and I'm just waiting to find some time, and I'll move them all to Hover. I love it, yeah.
Go to hover.com and use the code SATISFIEDCustomers to get 10% off your domain purchase today.
CodeShip is a hosted continuous delivery service focusing on speed, security, and customizability. You can set up continuous integration in a matter of seconds and automatically deploy when your tests have passed. CodeShip supports both your GitHub and Bitbucket projects, and you can get started with CodeShip's free plan today. Should you decide to go with a premium plan, you can save 20% off of any plan for the next 3 months by using code Rocketship. Go to codeship.com/rocketship and check it out.
So, Peter, you are on the board of Hyde Park Angels, which is, you guys are a fund that's focused on the Midwest. So tell us a little bit about what makes you guys unique from potentially other VC kind of angel venture firms.
Yeah, I appreciate that. So, what my role is, I am on the board, I'm the managing director, and I think the unique thing that Hyde Park Angels offers is we have 100 members that a vast majority of them are operators. So they've started, scaled, and sold a business. And I think that any entrepreneur that has built a company, I think they can relate that, capital is capital, cash is green. Whoever gives me the cash, I have to have a relationship. But what makes that relationship different is the expertise and advice that they can provide to help me minimize the wrong paths to go down and maximize the paths to actually travel. So the less things I have to choose, I don't always know if our members can provide the exact path, but they can narrow it down that it improves the probability. So what really differentiates us is that we have an active base of investors that range from some of the top entrepreneurs in the Midwest, and we're focusing on the Midwest. So, we have people that not only provide the expertise, but they're close to the entrepreneurs, which helps them in a variety of different ways.
So what's the difference between going to kind of Hyde Park Angels, which has a membership of 100, and getting investment from an individual angel? What's the advantage, I guess? Do more angels come in? Is there a different kind of like deal set up when you're coming to a larger organization like this?
Great question. So I think I'll even broaden out the spectrum a little bit. So what are angels compared to VCs and a VC fund?
Okay.
And I think number one, a VC fund, the easiest way to think about it is you have a few groups of individuals that are managing other people's money. So they're investing other people's money because they create a fund. Angels, the difference between them and a fund is they're investing their own money. So each person invests in each deal. And so what differentiates Hyde Park Angels, and we're the largest angel group in the Midwest and probably top 5 in the country, we operate as an institution, providing our members a lot of the resources that allow them to focus on the things that they like, and that's meeting entrepreneurs and helping entrepreneurs, while the institution behind them, the angel group behind them, manages all the paperwork and legal stuff and accounting stuff that when you start to build a portfolio of companies as an angel becomes cumbersome. So we allow them to do what they like. We allow them to learn from each other, allow them to invest together, but really get the same advantages that most angels are looking for, and that's to work with good entrepreneurs, put their money behind them, and hopefully it's a win all the way around. So just in quick summary, the three things there are three kind of groups that are in that category are VCs, angel groups that are kind of like an institution, then angels as an individual. That helpful?
Yeah. So when someone's starting out, how would you help push them in the right direction? What's the right approach for someone, whether or not to raise funding in the first place? And if they do decide to raise, who do they talk to?
I think the first thing that I'll sit down with an entrepreneur is giving them to really get a clear sense of what is your business and how strong is your business, and if you got capital, what would that do for your business? And I think that what is critical is answering that question to understand, am I building a business that needs a lot of capital to scale? And you got to work backwards to figure, what do I have to prove to show that it works in a small way so it can scale? And I think a lot of entrepreneurs get in a position where they got a great, awesome idea, but they really are never going to be a huge company. And I think that changes where they go to get capital. And I think that, I'm going to I'll come back to your point, but I want to hit on one issue is that, a lot of guys think that the game is about getting capital. And the game's about building a business that's going to create some sort of recurring value. And many times when you're a small business, you have recurring value that can be captured in the form of revenue, which becomes in the form of profit. And so you got guys that can create some great small businesses that might be generating 10 to 20 million and throwing off $1 million to $2 million in cash. Not great for an investor, but awesome for the entrepreneur. And, if you put, $1 million in your pocket for 10 years, that's 10 million. And there's a lot of entrepreneurs that have had companies that become a lot bigger than that don't walk away with 10 million in their pocket. So a small business isn't bad, and understanding where you play in the market becomes really important. But where do you start? I think that, the first thing, let's say you've decided that, hey, I got an idea. I just don't have the capital to take it to the next level. And for any investor, they're going to want to see some traction. So I always encourage entrepreneurs to go to friends and family and to bootstrap as long as they can. Because the longer you can bootstrap and the less money you take from the market, the capital market, the more control you're going to have over your business in the long term, both from a board perspective and from an equity perspective. So the further you go with the more traction, with the less capital, probably the more control over your fate you're going to have. So kind of coming back to your question, the where do you go first is you got to just determine what you need. I always recommend starting with friends and family, figuring how long that can take you, and then you start to look at your different angel group, venture capital options.
This episode is brought to you by Miro. Whether it's agile planning, scrum events, or technical diagramming, Miro is built for engineering workflows like yours. Enable your team to plan, align, and execute on your infrastructure initiatives all in one single place. That means you can plan your infrastructure efforts with intuitive project management and agile-focused features directly on a Miro board. Miro also has a ton of integrations like with Jira and Azure and Rally, so you can import tasks as native cards so you can see the big picture. Plus, Miro's estimation app gives you clear understanding of work scope and lets you identify gaps in analysis or understanding and set clear expectations for delivery, which is priceless. So, your first 3 Miro boards are free forever when you sign up. So go to Miro.com/podcast. That's Miro.com/podcast.
And so when you're approaching an angel group or even an angel, we talked about it before on the call, and you had kind of 4 core areas of advice. And I'd love to kind of go over those. But where do you start when deciding, I need to put a pitch together? What do you guys want to see? And what are some of the things that typically kind of get you excited when you're looking at a deal?
I think what gets me excited, because we what you find is a lot of folks have really pigeonholed what they're looking at, and what they do is they start to develop patterns in certain areas that they invest in, and they don't invest outside of that. In our group, we invest a little bit broader than the typical venture capitalists, and so when I'm looking across all these different areas, what I'm looking for is how is this solution, a product, a service, etc., how is it creating so much value for that consumer or that business that they're going to change what they're doing today to start doing what this business is offering? Where is that value creation? And if it is just overwhelming, that starts to get me excited, because I was like, wow, people would really change what they're doing today because this is so much better or so unique. And I think that what that allows us to do, because we're early in the game, a lot of times we don't see traction, but if I can say, I got your value proposition, I understand how you create value, then I can start working with the entrepreneur, regardless of where they are in the business, to understand what type of things I need to look for to see if they're getting traction in the market.
What are some ways that that's been communicated to you? Is it through like a product demo? Is it just through the idea and the excitement of the entrepreneur? How has that been transferred at the early stage where you can see, before a lot of people are using it, that this is going to change or could potentially change the way that people are currently doing things?
I think a lot of people look at it a lot of different ways. So I don't think there's a right way or a wrong way. But I can tell you, for me, I need an entrepreneur, before they show me a product or a demo, I need to think through the logic of how they're creating value. And a lot of times value is not only created by the direct consumer, but then there's influencers that impact how that consumer is using the product. And you can go to B2B or B2C. So when the entrepreneur can really succinctly be able to communicate that value, and then they can explain how that value chain works together in a way that I understand the logic and I can believe the logic, then it allows me to look at their product or service in a way that I can really examine to see if they're truly doing that. So for me, I need a succinct pitch to capture my interest. And then I need for them to have the logic in how this value chain comes together so I can see how it can be repeatable and recurring and all of those things. And, to be honest with you, it's never going to be done with a PowerPoint, and it's never going to be done with a product demo. Sometimes those are really helpful, but, you're looking for that entrepreneur to be able to communicate that.
Okay. So let's talk about traction and traction in a given market, because at the angel stage, it's very interesting. I'd love to kind of hear what you're looking for in traction, because there's probably not millions and millions of installs or downloads or users at this point. So how do you kind of judge it at that very early stage?
Yeah, so I think, in the early stage, traction can be, you can start to demonstrate traction by getting subject matter experts to say, this business, this concept is something that would transform the industry that I'm an expert in. So that's like at the very, like if you're looking, how do I look for traction when it's right in concept stage? That is a way that you can demonstrate some sort of traction. But I think that in our group is a little bit more mature, so we rarely invest in just concepts.
Okay.
And what I would say too is if you just have a concept as a entrepreneur, the amount that you're probably going to have to give away of your company to get funding is pretty draconian. And so like you want to at least have something out there that can demonstrate some sort of traction. So that goes back to what I was saying, like bootstrapping, friends and family, et cetera, is going to give you a lot more control of your destiny. The thing that we look for going to traction is I think the simplest thing is there recurring use in some fashion? So, like a lot of times you'll see people have wonderful graphs that go up and to the right. But what you're looking, or what I really look for is how many times is that person coming back? And are they buying more, using it more, telling more people about it? Those are the things that I really try to identify is I've used it once, I liked it so much, I used it again. I liked it so much, I used it again, and I used it more. And so if you start digging through a lot of the metrics, you start to get key metrics. And I think, and I'll finish on this point too, is that it's not just use. So like, if, for example, I think Medium has a great blog on this around the idea of, their focus is it's not just the impression on the blogs, it's how long the reader stays on site to consume that. Mm-hmm. And I think that, they're measuring true activity because their platform is different than Twitter. They're trying to give you a platform that is really going to provide information that's going to change your behavior. You can't change behavior in a real quick tweet. You need some substance to put some material around it. And so your recurring value that you're looking for is, are people coming to the site more? Are they staying on longer? Are they reading the entire essay or blog that's being presented? Those are the things that you're looking for metrics just to show adoption. And then if people are adopting it, they'll start to share it. And that's where you get a lot of traction.
So when we look at traction in a given market, I mean, how do you determine that? Market size is something that I think a lot of people struggle with figuring out, and maybe you have even some advice on that.
Well, my advice is, I don't know if, here. Okay, so I think that a lot of people start with the market size, and you see, it's 50 billion or 2 billion or what have you, and in day one, it's none of that really, right? It's the possibility. I think what I try to do is you're looking to see what is the traction, and a lot of times the entrepreneur, they're going into a brand new market, and as they get traction, I think analyzing who's really your power users and trying to determine why are they using it, what are the similarities both from a demographic and a psychographic that is similar, and then you can start to extract against that value chain. Oh, this is why they're changing their behavior to use this. This is why they're coming back. I could imagine this market would do it in the same way. So, that's why it goes back to traction, is then I can start to kind of project market size. Now, if you come to me with a business that says, I'm going to market to kayakers that are blind, that's a pretty small market, right? So that might be a good small business, but it's not an investable business. And so, and there just a sidebar comment. It just totally blows my mind. I was reading this story in Outside magazine about this blind kayaker, and I'm like, I can barely do it with my eyes open. It just amazes me what people can do. But anyway, coming back to the point is, I think that market size gets blown out of proportion because when you're an entrepreneur, you're just trying to validate a market. And a lot of times that market, you're not right on the money. It takes you some time to figure out who's really buying your value. And then you can start to size it a lot more effectively.
Interesting. So, and then the last point that we had discussed was the management team. This is the big one that we hear over and over again. So what are you personally looking for in either a management team or a CEO when you're looking at them at such a young stage?
I think there's a couple of things that we look at. I think first, and sometimes this hits, when I say this, it kind of lands on an entrepreneur in the wrong way. But I think it's just the reality is, what I'm really looking for is, can they get it from point A to point B in the range that I'm investing? We're angel investors. We have to make sure that we get that next round of capital. We lead A rounds, but we won't lead B rounds. And so I'm a lot more effective to figure out, can I make a good assessment of a person to be able to get it from A to B, then I'm going to be able to predict that they're going to get it from A to Z. Mm-hmm. And so and I think the other thing is, everybody thinks like they can go find the next Bill Gates. I mean, there's few guys that can do that. And there's a lot of reasons why it's pretty difficult to aspire to that. But what we're looking for in a management team and an entrepreneur is, do they have a clear understanding of how they're trying to create value? Can they assess the market conditions as they start to validate it? And can they apply the business logic against the right metrics to be able to make the right decisions? And some people use the word pivots at the right time, because they're looking at the right keyboard or the dashboard. So their logic is right. And if they have a history of doing that, then you see some pattern recognition. So I love, an entrepreneur that says, I'm able to do this because I did it before. But a lot of times, that's not the case. So we're trying to determine, their ability to really have a clear understanding of what they're trying to do and be able to demonstrate that they have a pretty good grasp on the logic that's needed to be successful.
So there's the business side, and then there's the team side. And either how the team, kind of works together, or how that CEO is able to lead a team that doesn't exist yet, a growing team to get to that A. So what kind of qualities do you look for in that when you're judging them in whether they're going to be the ones to inspire people to get there?
It's interesting because I think leadership presents in a lot of different ways. And I think that there's certainly a focus on that alpha male kind of driven leader or alpha female, or whatever the politically correct term would be. But, just somebody that has this charisma that's going to be able to drive. And, a lot of times when early stage like this, it might be somebody with such great product insights that they're able to have a clear vision of where they're going. And I think that when I look at a leader, I think there's some criteria that I really look for. Can they communicate their vision clearly? Because if they can't communicate that clearly, nobody else is going to be able to follow. And so a leader needs to be able to really say, here's the vision, and be able to lay down, here are the paths that we're going to take to get there. So some sort of strategy. They have to be clear in saying, here's how we're going to try to get there. So they're good at understanding the strategy to achieve their vision. I think we look for that. I think that, the other type of skills that represent is, this is where we can draw from their past. What kind of experience have they demonstrated historically, whether it's been leading an organization or involved in an organization that is much smaller, that they're just a part of the team. Are they a leader? But I think the thing on top of that is the level of passion and commitment they bring to it, because this is a grind. There's a lot of great days, but at the same time, it's really that hunger that's going to drive it. Their heart's telling them where to go, and hopefully their mind's in the right place to get them where they need to be.
Yeah, well, that's it's so true, and it is it's tough to, I guess, describe. So it's a hard question, I know, but I love that answer. So kind of, I guess to kind of sum up, is there anything coming out of the Midwest that you guys are really excited about, that we should keep an eye out for?
Yeah, I think the focus on the Internet of Everything, that's being driven into the industrial agricultural footprint of the Midwest is just mind-blowing. And, I think that there's a lot of solutions out there that are in the wearable space and all of that, but the stuff that is starting to emerge in the Rust Belt, or the Farm Belt as they call it, has immediate impact that I believe there's going to be rapid growth and huge revenue associated with it. So I'm pretty bullish on the stuff that is percolating in those arenas.
That's awesome. Yeah. And it's the stuff that we don't always hear about in the pop tech, if you will.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. So where can we keep up with you and Hyde Park Angels online?
Yeah, absolutely. So HydeParkAngels.com. You can follow us on Twitter, Facebook, and LinkedIn. My Twitter handle is at Peter_Wilkins. We are a regular contributor as well on Medium through Hyde Park Angels blog. So one of the things that we've been focusing on is providing a weekly update to entrepreneurs about how to navigate early stage investments and how to make great early stage decisions around the investors you should partner with.
Awesome. Well, we'll include a link in the show notes here so everyone can find that. Thank you so much for coming on.
Yeah, absolutely. You guys keep up the great work, and the more information we can provide entrepreneurs to make better decisions, the more success we'll have as a whole. So keep up the great work.
Thank you. I couldn't agree more.
Thanks, Peter.
All right. Have a great one.
You too.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Rocketship podcast. If you enjoyed it, we have tons of other awesome episodes on our website. Check them out, rocketship.fm.
And be sure to check out our app discount section, where we have discounts on products that we use every day, like Woo Themes, Wistia, Treehouse. Go to rocketship.fm/essentials and get your discounts today.
Dr. Ray Wingrant, wildlife ecologist and host of the award-winning podcast Going Wild, produced by Nature on PBS. In the brand new season of Going Wild, we're tackling the big question, how can humans look at our relationship to nature differently? And with the help of special guests like Christian Cooper, host of Nat Geo's Extraordinary Birder, and Ayanna Elizabeth Johnson, co-creator of the How to Save a Planet podcast. Follow Going Wild with Dr. Ray Wingrant on your favorite podcast app.
Are you looking for a podcast that'll make you laugh?
You came to the wrong place.
That's not us.
That's not us.
Well, it is. We are a husband and wife who chat about raw, real relationship topics.
Like sex.
Like money.
Like marriage and kids.
But we're not afraid to talk about how your newborn baby probably isn't as cute as you think it is.
If you're in need of entertainment while you're driving to work, because that sucks, we can join you in the suckage, kind of like being in your ear.
Not physically.
So if you want to laugh,
come check us out.
Come check us out. Brought to you by the Laughing Couple Podcast.